How are you getting on, folks? Well, look at all I can say is thank God for it being a double header, because if it was just going on Navan, we had an absolute stinker. But thank God Cork pulled us out of the fire. It was actually the best day I think I've ever had. Between the whole lot, there was 7 winners, few places. Especially in Cork, we picked almost every winner. It was a bit of a crazy day, to be perfectly honest. I'm delighted for my good friend Alan King getting his first winner on the track. It's a great achievement for him, and hopefully he'll be able to pick on now and I suppose keep going the way he's going at the minute. He's absolutely flying. But I suppose we may as well park that aside now, and we may as well focus on the week ahead. There's a few, I suppose, nice meetings. There's an awful lot of flats, so I will be avoiding an awful lot of the Irish meetings this week. But yeah, Punchestown tomorrow. It's a funny old sort of a card. It's an interesting one. Some very very good, decent, I suppose, horses over hurdles going, I suppose, chasing, and there is some races in here that are particularly low level standard. There's 1 or 2 races in here that are very very poor, but it's a bit of a mixed bag. But we'll try and, I suppose, make the best of, I suppose, a bit of a bad lot. Hopefully we'll be able, I suppose, make a bit of profit out of it anyway. There is some great value horses on offer now tomorrow. First race off though, the 12:30. This is a cross country chase. I always love watching these cross country chases. They're just, I suppose it's a nice change of, I suppose, your standard everyday racing, and it's a bit of a treat now and then to be able to see these sorts of mad hurdles and everything else. But for me, this particular race absolutely screams Never Rush a Con for Jessica Harrington and Paddy Kennedy here. It's currently priced around 5-2. Between the whole lot, I think it's definitely between the top 2 in the market. I can't see anything to, I suppose, cause a bit of a shock. Josie's Orders seems to be going on the back foot. I don't think she's going to be really making any sort of massive impression or anything like that. But look, at who's to knows. It's a horse from End the Bulgers at the end of the day. But overall, when you look at form, when you pull it all together, Never Rush a Con has beaten most of the field, and especially the ones up the top of the market, which we will be looking at. This, I think, is Ballybrownie Walk or Ballybrownie Glory or something along the lines like that. The second favourite anyway. Jamie Codd is riding it. It's beaten that 2 or 3 times around here. Josie's Orders, it's beaten it. Overall, I think it just has to stay up to, I suppose, get home. We do know that handles, I suppose, the softening ground, and it is soft to heavy. It's not going to get any better. It's I suppose it's starting to rain now at the minute, and I think there's rain promised overnight as well. But yeah, it won't change from soft to heavy. It's going to be a miserable, I suppose, ground conditions tomorrow. So that's going to play into the favour of Never Rush a Con. I think 5-2 is a great price. Obviously, look at it in this race last year, it was just behind Auvergnat, and it put up a very very good effort that day. It goes well fresh, should be well schooled, and should be well primed to be able to go and take this now tomorrow. Next race then, the 1 o'clock. We are going to go to the next best here now. Willie Mullins sends out Collereevy here. A very, very nice mare going on for, I suppose, her chasing debut. 2-1 definitely looks to be a very nice price. We missed the early price of 4-1, but still 2-1 is serious value here. It's coming up against Datsy, who, I suppose, although it is consistent, it's just a little bit frustrating for me particularly. I can't really make head nor tails of this horse or this horse's capabilities. It just seems to want to find a way to get itself beaten. A little bit of a downside overall in terms of, I suppose, picking out different horses. You don't really want to be looking at horses that have, I suppose, continuously finished second, third, fourth. I suppose on each way value sort of a horse, that is a good thing. But for I suppose a price as short as that's here now tomorrow, it's definitely a no go for me. I think Colreevy, she was she was fifth in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle last year. Obviously, look at Yukon Lil, who has since come out, has ramped home in Cork. Um, I think 2-1 is a great price. I honestly cannot see this mare being beaten tomorrow. She's well suited to be able to go on over chasing fences, especially I suppose in these sorts of conditions. I cannot see this horse being beaten, and her form around Punchestown is fairly solid as well, if I'm not mistaken. I would be very surprised to see her beaten, and 2-1 is a great value bet. Next race then of the day, the 130. This is the only each way shout of the day, but it's at a very nice price. Carrignagopal at 16-1 definitely looks to be very interesting here for our Catherine Hamilton. Catherine Hamilton, I think, is training it. It's, I suppose, look at it's coming in from the back of a poor run, but I suppose it was just it was a novice sort of a run. It just seemed to, I suppose, make a few mistakes. I didn't really look too much into it. The form around Punchestown is very solid in these sorts of conditions. Third and second and fourth, I think, were the last three runs around Punchestown over course and distance. The one thing that is very interesting here is Danny Mullins takes the ride. Normally there's been the likes of £7 claimers on the back, I suppose, just given a bit of, I suppose, an experienced run more so than anything else. But the fact that Danny Mullins is taking the ride now tomorrow definitely looks to me to be very interesting, especially for a horse that's proven to run fairly consistently around Punchestown. I think 16-1 is a great price. I think an each way shout, you're definitely going to be looking at one of the ones that's going to run a very big race tomorrow. An awful lot of these at the top of the market are, I suppose, out of the handicap, so they're, I suppose, coming in on much worse terms than they really should be. An awful lot of these are coming in £5, £6 worse off than what they would be, I suppose, in a normal everyday, I suppose, condition really. But I just don't really think that there's much value there at the top of the market, and I think an each way price, Carrignagopal at 16-1 is definitely well worth getting behind. Now, next race then, the 2 o'clock, possibly the poorest race of the day without a shadow of a doubt, but we're going to go with Peckham Springs at 7-4. This one here is solely down to the ground conditions. The favourite by right should be well able to go and win this particular race, but it's, like I said, it's a very poor standard, and the favourite's a very poor standard as well. So 11-8 doesn't really speak much for the, I suppose, value bet of the day, but Peckham Springs has run fairly well and fairly consistently in, I suppose, heavy ground. It's been fairly decent on the flat and, I suppose, low level handicaps in heavy ground. I think it was in the Curragh when it was last seen, coming fourth or fifth. I'm not 100% sure, but it was, I suppose, in terms of overall ability, it's best on heavy ground. So it's definitely going to be meeting conditions like that tomorrow. I just don't think this favourite is worth going in for a big lump job. I think it's a race that, if you're not going for, I suppose, the bit of value there for the second favourite, you're better off, I suppose, avoiding it. I think you're just you're playing with too much risk than actually getting out a reward here. And for me, I definitely think the 7-4 is much better value. But like I said, it's a very poor race. The jockey is going for his first winner. Could be an Alan King story. Could absolutely ramp up. But I don't know. It's just a race that I'd be inclined to avoid. But for the sake of, I suppose, covering the whole race card, that's the one that I would be going with. Next race then, the 2:30. We're going to go with Lens of Antrim here for Willie Mullins, Mark Walsh and JP McManus here, currently priced around 5-2. This one here was bought up for 40,000 euros, I think. 40,000 euros or 40,000 guineas, um, by JP. It's by Flemensfort. It's and out of a fairly decent, I suppose, mare as well that's produced a few winners, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, I suppose the whole stamp and the profile of this particular horse definitely speaks volumes. The favourite here for Willie Mullins, partnered by Paul Townend, I don't think it's going to like the ground conditions tomorrow. I think it's more of a, dare I say it, summer horse, but I haven't seen anything of this particular horse, whether it's going to be, I suppose, a top class sort of a horse or not. But I don't know. I cannot see this particular horse being any way worth, I suppose, of a favourites tag. I think it's just going to die off in soft to heavy ground conditions tomorrow. Then you have, who else do you have? You have Julie Stowaway from Max Mullins as well. Another look at a very decent mare as well, in particular on heavy ground. But I don't know, just 13-8 just doesn't really scream too much value for me. I just think it'll need one or two more goes over hurdles before I'd be necessarily jumping in at a price like that. I could be well proven wrong, but it's just one that I would be siding for this Lens of Antrim now tomorrow. It's like I said, Flemmisfort is, I think he's the champion the leading champion sire for National Hunt horses, and the mare I think has produced a few winners as well. So look at the overall profile is there for this particular horse to be very, very talented and good enough to actually go and win this particular race tomorrow. And 5-2 looks to be great value. Now the next race then, the 3 o'clock, we're going to go with Cool Born Lad at 7-2 for Noel Mead, Sean Flanagan, and the Call Me Lyrene Syndicate. This one here was very, very interesting in Clonmel in similar conditions. Obviously, it was behind Conquered All of Europe. It was, I think it was 2 lengths behind that day, but it ran considerably well for his first time over hurdles. I think it was his first time over hurdles. I'm not 100% sure on that now, but yeah, look, it ran fairly, I suppose, considerably and fairly well. It, dare I say it, it looked like it was going to be the winner on the day, but it just, I suppose, carried its head a little bit too high, lost a bit of concentration, and I suppose overall it costed the race. But the tongue tie is added now for tomorrow. Whether that's going to help with breathing or anything like that, I don't know. But look at Noel Mead is in serious form. Sean Flanagan is almost even in better form. I definitely think it's going to put in a very good run now tomorrow. 7-2 is great value in my personal opinion. I think it's break even is the favourite. I don't know. I just cannot make head nor tail of this break even. I can't. I suppose I can't seem to really get behind it anymore. It's just it's turning out to be a little bit frustrating for me. But this Cool Born Lad, if the tongue tie improves, it's breeding, and I suppose experience, I suppose, teaches it to carry his head a little bit lower. It should be well capable of winning a race of this particular standard. Now, finally, then the 3:30, the nap of the day, we are going to go with Joseph O'Brien's Delingus or Delignus or whatever way you pronounce it. I'm not even going to try it, but it's currently priced around 6-4. JJ Slevin on board. It's, I suppose, look at it, it's coming on the back of a break, but should it go well fresh, it won't be beaten. It's as simple as that. There's already great money coming in for it. I think it was 4-1 backed into 6-4. Look, we missed the early price, but I definitely think it's one to be definitely getting on board with tomorrow. I cannot see this horse being beaten. It doesn't look to be an overly competitive field. It looks to be a nice introduction for this this horse now tomorrow in this particular company for the whole season, and hopefully it'll be able to continue where it left off on the back of a winner. That's all for tomorrow, though, folks. Hopefully, we'll be able to continue on the great run we had in Cork. Punchestown, like I said, is one of my better tracks as well. I'm fairly confident. Hopefully, ye are too. Thanks again for the continued support. We've passed, I suppose, the 250 mark in terms of subscribers, so we're a quarter of the way there. Please make sure to keep liking, sharing, subscribing. The page is starting to grow even more so. If you haven't already done so, head over to the Irish Racing Corner on Facebook or Twitter, whichever platform you use, and get following that. Because there will be, I suppose, a very good, new episode that's going to be starting up now, hosted by myself, Ryan Sharkey, and Dean Hegarty, from Racing Records. We're hoping that it's going to really kick off, and yeah, it'll be a new aspect on Irish racing that I suppose the outside world wouldn't necessarily see. I'm not going to say much more about it, but make sure to tune in this Sunday to be able to, I suppose, see where we're going for it. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. Thanks very much for the continued support. Please make sure to keep liking, sharing, subscribing, and if you're going to be having a bet, the very best of luck.